A mid-size EV SUV comparison episode just for you here with Thomas and Autogefuehl. We'll go with the VW ID4 in the GTX trim, the all-wheel drive trim, against the Quattro model of the Audi Q4 e-tron. Which one is the best in our test today? And we're also going to talk about the competitors of these two models. Here in the front of the Audi Q4 e-tron, a very modern look, closed front grille of course. EV doesn't need that cooling, horizontal chrome fins. Big e-tron badging, and even more contrasting in the lower part than the very modern style here of the headlamp unit. Comes with LED standard and optional matrix LED, and the same also accounts for the VW ID4. Just that we here have this more round shape, so the Audi more angular and here a very round shape for the ID4, so really very different from the design. They both, however, sit on the very same platform, the MEB, the modular electric building platform of the Volkswagen AG. So the hardware underneath is basically the same. Both are available with either rear-wheel drive or all-wheel drive models, and we'll find out more about that very soon. Interesting side profile comparison. Both vehicles are around 4,60 m or 181 inches, so exactly the same length, same wheelbase, same MEB platform. Here the Audi, you can see, has design line right here, and then it's rather subtle designed in the side, and then raises again right there to the shoulder area. Both vehicles come with 18 to 21 inch wheels, and both today have the biggest wheel choice here, 21 inch wheels with these aerodynamic fillings on the inside, contrasting wheel arches, the S-line exterior package that way, right? And then you can see the ID4, once again different styling, stronger shoulders here, actually a little bit more central in the styling, but more plasticish here in that case than with the contrasting wheel arches. 21 inch wheels once again. So in the side profile, I think not as different as we see, for example, in the front and the rear. And both also come with their Coupé versions. For example, it would be the ID5 for the ID4 and the Audi Q4 e-tron Sportback. We already have a comparison episode of that. You can also check that out in the video description or the pinned comment. Which one do you like best from the design so far? In the rear, very interesting stylings. Once again, the Audi Q4 e-tron with a very modern signature for the tail lamps, and this model is called 50 e-tron Quattro. That's the all-wheel drive model, and you can also, as I said, just go for rear-wheel drive models. Then you have more rear-wheel bias, so to speak. Here then, of course, a little bit more punch, better acceleration figures. And you can see also a contrasting lower part with a big e-tron badging. Then also a spectacular design for the ID4, because you have this, three-dimensional tail end signature right there. And also interesting that we have more contrast here where they put the paint, in this swinging style. And the GTX model is their all-wheel drive model. In the US, they will not name it that way. Not sure why. I think it's actually a quite good idea. Both come with the very same battery. So we have a net battery size of 77 kilowatt hours. And that will give us a range something 400 kilometers, 250 miles. So the energy consumption also in our test was pretty much equal, something around 20 kilowatt hours on 100 kilometers. So that's more like 32 kilowatt hours on 100 miles. And both also come optional or included in the high trim models with the adaptive suspension DCC. As for recharging, 11 kilowatt AC or 125 kilowatt DC for that big battery. There's also a smaller 52 kilowatt hour battery available, by the way, but especially if you want to buy these vehicles, you should go for the bigger battery because they are not the most efficient EVs out there. So especially for long-term residual value and so on, you will need the big battery, and you also will want to have that range. Acceleration figures, by the way, here both for the all-wheel drive models, also the same at 6.2 seconds. However, you can also go for the rear-wheel drive model and still pick the big battery. Probably that is also price performance-wise the best choice. Car key comparison, high gloss black for the ID4 and rather subtle design for the Audi. And yeah, it's more premium definitely here with the Audi, and door closing sound. Very solid like that. We'll soon compare it, of course, to the ID4. Inside of the doors is, it's not really soft. It's not super hard in the top, but rather hard, I would say. A little bit disappointing as for that. Also here, and this one is middle soft, so to speak, so not the best at the inside of the doors. However, the buttons here, they still have clicking sound. That is actually quite nice. And also S-line interior today. Nice new steering wheel. Look at that flat bottom. The capacitive buttons on the steering wheel, hashtag capacitive curse, a new hashtag here on Autogefuehl, of course. Soon more to all the instruments and so on, but what you can already see here, you have proper big digital instruments here in the Audi if you compare it to the ID4. As for the seats, that's also very interesting. Here, for the Q4 e-tron, in the US you would start with the leatherette in 3 different colors. In Europe we have a fabric leatherette mix or a Dynamica microfiber leatherette mix, so great also animal-free choices available. But yeah, they have so many animal-free choices, and the test vehicle crew decided to put the only animal skin seat in the car. Disappointing here for the test vehicle today, but they have a lot of choices at least. Seating position is actually decent, comfortable, also enough headroom with 1.86 m or 6'1". Steering wheel, smooth control and very wide out there. So overall, again, some crossover, low seating, mid-size SUV style, but nothing to complain here at all. Good job. Interior overview, it's not a calm design, but you have some nice choices. For example, here this bright situation in the top part. You have a 10 or this optional 12-inch screen. Soon more details to that. And yes, a manual climate unit. Such a big advantage already here in comparison to the ID4. And in the lower part here, you have the gear selector, a lot of high gloss black stuff here whatsoever, and yeah, the drive select is a little bit hidden down there, so that might be a problem while driving. And kind of floating console, some more space underneath, 2 USB-C chargers, and then in the lowest part here some adaptive cup holders next to this armrest with reasonable space underneath actually. On the steering wheel, this flat 2-dimensional design, I really prefer the 3-dimensional OnlyRings also on the steering wheel. And then you see here, they are now illuminated, these buttons. You can slide, for example, to browse through the menu, but you can still click it, but then it's one button at all. Really necessary. It looks maybe cleaner and fancier, but the functionality is worth than before, definitely. Digital instruments, yes, good to have these ones here in 10-inch. That's a very big advantage if you compare to the ID4, and you can have different views through here. So that's actually quite cool. And also, for example, the map, like this, also full screen. Head-up display, always nice to have. And while driving, you also have some augmented reality functions. Infotainment software with a easy menu structure, actually a very good overview, and the loading times are, it's not the quickest, but it's actually okay. And here also again the hotkey overview on the left side, they can easily jump to the GPS, for example. It could be more responsive, yes, but way better than the ID4. So much better software. They use completely different software, and that's a good thing. And there's the Apple CarPlay integration, also Android Auto is possible, and the Sonos sound system we have in here is very crisp from the sound. Really love it in this segment here, among the leading ones. In the rear here, decent seating position, also some legroom left, so headroom no problem at all, so this works. And for 4 or even 5 tall adults here in the middle part, you sit a little bit higher. Not that comfortable, it's more thought out for the outside positions, but no middle tunnel here, using that EV platform. So actually a quite good result here for the rear. 2 USB-C chargers in the middle part, climate unit, and here you also have adaptive cup holders. Once again, very nice as for the build quality. There is also a panoramic roof available, just not spec'd in this vehicle here today. The ID4 with integrated door handles. You have some kind of a feedback from underneath though, and then door closing sound, also very solid. Then inside of the door is actually softer than in the Audi in the top part, that's interesting. And then this blue insert is, not sure, together with the red and red contour stitches, not the best styling probably. Also here with the high gloss black, so not so enthusiastic about that. Then, however, cool are these seats here, sporty way. They always come like this in this integrated head restraint style. That's very cool. The highlight of this vehicle actually, and also with microfiber. And they do not offer any animal skin services at all. That's way to go. For the steering wheel, they still need some time, they say, as for this respect. You can see here a big difference with the digital instruments. We'll soon show you that in detail. But definitely 5-inch, so half the size for the digital instruments. And they are also connected to the steering wheel, which is, to me, a little bit weird, isn't it? But at least it's always then in your line of sight, and this is also, a good thing to have. The controls on the steering wheel are also capacitive here, and they are a little bit harder to control. Sometimes you don't really know what you're doing. or means 86 or 601. Still a lot of headroom even here at the side. This one here equipped with the panoramic roof, and yeah, on the ignition you also have a shade for that. That's a big advantage if you think about the Ford Mustang Mach-E or the Volvo C40 or the Tesla Model X. They do not offer this shade, and then people start wrapping them from the outside in Texas, for example. Here at least you have this shade, so that's very good to have indeed. Yeah, steering wheel, we had that. Seating position, very comfortable. The seats are excellent, so to me at the moment they also feel a little bit better than in the Audi. So the seats here are indeed the highlight of this interior. Interior overview, it's a quite calm design indeed, and here some soft touch, but then a lot of high gloss black and so on. Here also 10-inch or optional 12-inch screen, and yeah, the thing is here really temperature sliders, not illuminated at night, volume slider. That's just not a good user interface indeed. And here also the capacitive buttons. Steering wheel has this GTX inlet, and here once again the capacitive buttons, very small digital instruments, you can see them right here. They do the job, they're enough. Yes, it's okay, and they say, yeah, go for the head-up display, and then that's it. The shifting lever is different because it is here at the steering column basically. And yeah, forward for the drive mode, which is in a way logical, and you can also see this illuminated thing in the front when you put in the drive mode. And here for the reverse, then you can also see the rear view camera. Yes, it is in a way logical because this is forward and this reverse, but when you know a DSG shifting lever, you always put it like this for the drive and in the front for the reverse. So I'm always used that this would be reverse and this would be driving, you know? Maybe it's just me. Leave me some comments about that. These digital instruments here, nice visualization, but you know, it's very small. When you hit the brakes, then they get activated, and there's not much more you can do there. Changing the view means just putting this one bigger or smaller, and that's it. Well, it's all you need, but still having the map in there, for example, like in the Audi, would be cool. And you can also get a head-up display here, and even this vehicle here has some augmented reality arrows they can display. Infotainment system, they did some updates since the launch, but I mean, the speed is just not okay. It's not responsive enough. It looks old school. Look at that. You can't offer a car like this with this infotainment system in 2021. And even in this test, we once again had failures that nothing was working anymore. Climate unit, you can also control it right here, or once again in these temperature sliders, or the voice control would be set temperature to 22 degrees.
Call number. To use your mobile phone's telephone function,
what?
Establish a Bluetooth.
Seriously? Okay, that being said, the voice control, the voice input is also better in the Audi, actually. And CarPlay integration looks like this. And then let's listen to the very same sound. Temperature slide here. It's actually quite decent. So the sound system is of course way more expensive in the Audi, but the sound we have here is also actually quite good. So that's okay, but yeah, about the infotainment system, rather forget it. You have a lot of space to put things here, also with these splitters. You can make it more open or segment it. A lot of high gloss black use once again. Then this huge opening right here with adaptive cup holders and 2 USB-C chargers, but also inductive charging pad for your smartphone. Both cars actually have that. So also a lot of space, reasonable result here. Rear seating from the legroom, it's comparable if you compare it to the Audi. I mean, here of course we have the panoramic roof, so this is a little bit not fair now because headroom is of course closer here, but still works with 4 tall adults, no problem. 5 tall adults would actually also work. So yeah, definitely as for the rear seating, comparable with both vehicles, also very comfortable here in the rear. However, the cup holders are not adaptive. There you see these small cost-saving details. Customers of electric vehicles like to have Frunks, but there is no front trunk here in the Audi, and of course none in the ID4. The only thing you can do here is put in some wiper fluid. About the trunk comparison, on paper the Q4 has a smaller trunk, 500 liters, whereas 540 for the ID4. But let's see how it plays out in the real world here comparison. almost 1 meter or 40 inches in width, and the length here is 93 centimeters. That's here 36 inches. And the height below the cover right here, yeah, some 48 centimeters or 19 inches. You see here the cabin trolley. Well, our cameraman Thomas, so double Thomas here today, has probably some bricks in here, right? Do you have? But here easily fits in also in a vertical way. And to fold the seats, no possibility from here. Then you also have to go around, do it like this. And now the ID4. Well, I don't have to do the measures once again because the measurements are exactly the same in all dimensions. And also underneath here, some more space. You can, for example, put a charging cable there. And even more underneath there, maybe like for a second charging cable. But now you might ask yourself, why does it have a little more liter capacity? Well, there's one difference. Here, the length in height, so to speak. Here, this, you know, where the Q4 e-tron would go, let's say, like this. Here, this is a little bit longer, and that's why you have 40 more liters. And now it's time for Thomas's comparison driving lounge, starting with the Audi Q4 e-tron with an all-wheel drive version, and then 40 kilometers an hour, and we'll start in dynamic mode. Let's go! At 50 kilometers an hour, and approach the top speed, which is here at about 180 kilometers an hour. So some 112 miles an hour, something like that. Yeah, 184 is the top speed, and still very nice for the handling, but it feels really settled still. It's not too loud, just from a statutory feeling. Very nice from suspension, adaptive suspension, setting it on a stiffer note now, and this already feels like a grown-up SUV indeed, although it's not too tall for US size at least. And one of the very funny things in driving, when I attended the first driving event where we had that video, Q4 e-tron versus the Q4 e-tron Sportback, you can also check out that video, and I went there with the RSQ8, which is clearly more expensive, like double, triple the price, and also has the most powerful combustion engine they offer. And then was getting in this vehicle, and very good spontaneous acceleration and so on. And then I was switching back to the RSQ8 again and driving home. And I was like, is there something happening? So even though, you have the strongest ICE, the strongest combustion engine, here in the electric drive, you just have this very spontaneous acceleration from the get-go because the torque is already there. Here in these situations like a motorway, where you're a little bit faster and so on, then of course the super powerful combustion engine would still have an advantage, But it's really fun and extremely sporty just from the first acceleration pieces, so to speak. So it feels definitely more premium than the ID4 in the interior, I told you earlier, and that also has an effect on driving. Indeed, you do feel, at some point you might, okay, they share the platform, but you do feel still it's an Audi, Going back to the auto mode, then by the way, in this auto mode at Audi, the car actually picks up how fast are you approaching corners, how aggressive are you with the throttle pedal, and then adapting the driving mode according to that. So for example, when the car is realizing, he's applying some more throttle and he's going more like, left and right and so on. By the way, such a great handling once again. Then the suspension is also set on a stiffer note, for example. So the auto mode is indeed a nice way to go, definitely. The steering, I love the flat bottom here. You can have these different options here though, and it's super precise, so no dead zone area here. And it's just, how you would like to, depict it in a visual way. So here now, for example, 90-degree bend. And it's basically, that you have the exact feeling for what the car and what the steering is doing. That's so great. So really love that. Audi has really figured that out. We know that already for quite a long time. The distance here to the dashboard, it's again very wide in this platform. So you have this kind of traveling feeling, I would say. So a little bit van atmosphere. So when driving on the inside, it doesn't have the biggest SUV feeling. However, you already sit higher. I would say it has, some crossover-ish SUV feeling, but that's actually a good thing, and also definitely a very comfortable ride. One more time, from 100 kilometers an hour, just staying in the auto mode because it doesn't make such a big difference. Still good acceleration already when we add speed, so no problem here when accelerating on the motorway, and such a great handling. It is not a low-sitting car, but you have a great feeling still at high speed, and when the car is handling very well here at high speed, once again reaching top speed, that always speaks for the vehicle itself. That's why we do these high speed tests here for you. It's not that we drive like this every day, and of course we always have to be cautious, but here this is a very rather controlled area where I can do that in a very safe manner. And once again, really impressed by the handling and the overall feeling of that vehicle. So suspension-wise, steering-wise, chassis-wise, everything really top-notch. And really looking forward how that plays out with the ID4 very soon. Recuperation, by the way, I usually set to the B mode, the recuperation mode. It's not the harshest recuperation there is actually, but it is quite notable. I wouldn't exactly say you can fully go for one pedal driving with that. ACC, by the way, here set. Also, I can see some things in the head-up display. Also, the distance to the car in front of me. Not sure if I really need that actually. But it's here in a separate store column, and definitely way more practical to set it that way, the rather old school way, if we compare it to the ID4. The blind spot monitor is integrated in the side mirrors, also in a very nice way. So we see here, although it is this modern EV, the user interface, especially while driving, is actually pretty good because it has conservative elements like the separate stall column for the cruise control, like the manual climate dials that we still have here, which are super easy to control, and also the touchscreen with the whole menu structure and so on is so much easier to control, especially while driving, if we compare it to the ID4. Told you earlier, I don't like these capacitive touch buttons here on the steering wheel. They were really not that necessary. Oh, the army is on its way. Not sure where they're heading to. So these are not that practical while driving, but you can still press them, in a way. So I would rather prefer that than going for the slides. For these capacitive buttons on the steering wheel, they are somewhat okay, I would say, but definitely not the best. Cool also that the lane keeping assist, you can activate it or deactivate it very easily here. Whoa, that was kind of harsh reaction from it, right? So set the cruise control, and here also the lane keeping assist. And here see car is being kept in lane. Sometimes you can not 100% rely on it, but usually it's actually quite reliable. The head-up display now shows me also a green line in front of the car in front of me, that it's supposed to be like when it's fog or something, that I can still see where the next vehicle is, but to me maybe a little bit more distracting rather than that. And here we go. Let's see how the car handles that. Again, you're not meant to keep your hands off the steering wheel, and see here, have always to be prepared. It is rather meant for motorway use. These bends here are a little bit too strong for that, so easy to deactivate it just here, one press, because you can hear adaptive cruise assist with lane guidance or no lane guidance. So this is also cool, it's like, I don't want the lane keeping assist right now, just click there and it's deactivated, and that's really the good thing. So I think from all the EVs, especially here, there are a lot of competitors, definitely not only ID4, but also Tesla Model X, of course, the the Tesla Model Y. I always say Tesla Model X because we had the X for such a long time, only in Germany. So, of course, the Tesla Model Y. Also in the Mustang Mach-E review, I always said X. No, the Tesla Model Y, of course, So the Tesla Model Y, the Ford Mustang Mach-E, or the Ioniq 5, the Kia EV6, all these, a lot of competitors now in this kind of mid-size crossover SUV segment. Driving-wise, the Audi really sets the pace here. Now the VW ID4 GTX, and we start with some nice winding corners right here, and they use the same platform, kind of the same chassis, and you feel that The platform is really good, very stiff chassis that feels really sporty. The steering is also very good actually, so no deads on area, good feeling for the vehicle. I found it a little bit sportier than in the Audi indeed. Yeah, it's really nice when you have some wet leaves here on the road and the car is also sliding just a little bit. That all-wheel drive gives you, however, very good traction when accelerating out. Of course, when you're braking, the all-wheel drive has no influence, that's just physics then. So also really fun and likable. But already at slower speeds you feel that you have some more noises coming from the car somewhere actually. So for example here in this case from the panoramic roof, we didn't have that on the Audi. Now acceleration from standstill and cornering. Plop, that's, yeah, was almost 60, but here we have to stop at 50. Really smooth out, the steering is not moving at all, so very good traction again from the all-wheel drive. Very smooth but spontaneous acceleration. The acceleration figures are absolutely comparable once again, of course, because they have the same drivetrain mounted right there. And when you lift the throttle here in the B mode, you have a strong recuperation, but as I said, not as strong as you would say. This is like a full one pedal driving. Let's say it comes close to one pedal driving. And if I would go here to the D mode, then I lift my foot off the throttle, car is just rolling. Quite efficient indeed, and in a way you can argue pro and con, depends on. The B mode is somewhat better because you lift your foot off the throttle and you immediately start decelerating, and that is maybe a safety thing as well. But you have to get used to it, especially that you don't put too much G-forces on your passengers, for example. So then the D mode can be something to get used to it. However, if you think about combustion engine vehicles, they also have engine brakes, so you have some deceleration when you lift off your foot off the throttle, and that's not the same thing in a D here. So in D here there's nothing, it's just rolling like in the sailing mode with the ICE, and that can be when you're going into a corner also quite unusual. So I would rather go for the B mode and then learn to lift your foot off the throttle in a more gentle way, especially when you're driving together with passengers. Once again here, good handling. As for the DCC, dynamic chassis control, you have the mode button right there, and then you can put in that sport mode, for example. When you have the optional DCC, then also once again the suspension is set according to that. So if you kind of close your eyes and feel the vehicle, feel the platform, the cars are not that different as for the main hardware. Indeed, you can feel that. And when someone tells you, yeah, they are on the same platform, you think, like, yeah, I can feel that. That somehow works. However, especially from the user interface, that is applied while driving. With the Audi, I had hard buttons for the cruise control, for example. I had these climate buttons, not these temperature sliders right there. The software in the Audi is way better, and even while driving, this software can fail. We had that a couple of times. Just yesterday, recently, the software had some failure and we couldn't change the temperature while driving, for example. So they have put some updates in there, but they still have issues. So user interface definitely way better with the Audi, and yeah, from that handling, indeed, that is more comparable indeed, and this car handles very, very well, and it drives really also very, very good. But already here, these rattles from the panoramic roof when you're going over some bumps and so on, this is already a little bit annoying. Okay, in this case we didn't have the panoramic roof with the Audi, but I had the Audi, I think I did have one with the panoramic roof already. Did I? I have to check that out, but usually we hadn't had that problem with Audis so far. It will be even more interesting when we now go also to the motorway and do a high-speed test. How is the noise level, in which way is that one comparable then to the one with the Audi? Nevertheless, it's a lot of fun also to drive the ID4, no matter if you have the GTX version or the non-one. Again, the GTX version not available in that respect in the US. If they offer all-wheel drive version, probably also will not call it GTX. The rear-wheel drive model is in a way cooler because you just have more rear-wheel bias. Here with the all-wheel drive models, you have just more punch, more acceleration, and of course it will be useful when you live somewhere where you have like strong winter conditions and so on. However, if you rather seek a budget solution and also for more, agile driving fun, I did also do a comparison with the Q4 e-tron earlier, where we just had the rear-wheel drive model and then the all-wheel drive model, or other way around. And although the rear-wheel drive only models have less power, they're in a way more puristic, more fun to drive. They feel more natural. The rear comes around a little bit better in the corners. So yeah, probably I would even rather save the money and go for a rear-wheel drive model to have a little bit more cornering driving fun. So yeah, that definitely can't be bad. So once again, hardware-wise, definitely very good. All UI, software-wise, yeah, definitely something to improve here, or much to improve here in the ID4, and that is, it is just connected also to the driving feeling, not from a basic sense, but definitely also accounts for the whole driving experience. Now let's head on to the motorway. So now we go here, once again to the sport mode, and also start from 40 kilometers an hour. Let some cars pass, and then safely have passage. So here we go, and now one more. Let's go. $150. Good and comparable acceleration, definitely. Same drivetrain, but yeah, that was almost the top speed, 181 kilometers an hour. Let's see when the GLE there is making way, if we can get some more top speed right there. Here, of course, in the latter stages, not so much is happening. So now we're approaching top speed, and you feel it, like the noise insulation is such a difference here. Now, once again, 184 kilometers an hour. There we go. The car itself, a little bit more nervous as for suspension. Noise level way higher than in the Q4 e-tron, so massive difference. Wouldn't have guessed that the difference is so massive. Of course, here we don't have the fixed roof. That might be something, definitely, but yeah, that overall feeling from the noise dampening, that's very interesting. Really surprising to me. I mean, at normal speeds like 100 kilometers an hour or 60 miles an hour, it's reasonably silent, definitely. But the Audi is way better. So yeah, didn't expect such a difference there. So the Audi definitely feels top notch, like a premium car. Like, hey, there's not much you can do better in that respect. But here, it doesn't feel like a premium vehicle, So that's the difference. The UI together with the noise insulation and so on. But still, it is stable. Also at high speed driving, feels good still, but not as good as the Audi. That's clear. So, and then other things like cruise control, setting it here on the steering wheel. Yeah, that's not the best thing. Definitely, I told you earlier. Then the travel assist, also have some augmented head-up display functions right there. Change the lane right here. Then also head-up display signaling me the distance to the car in front of me. And let's see the lane keeping assist here on the motorway. See here, also keeps me in the lane. And that is very well done, also with very smooth movement on the steering wheel. Once again, they also share the technology right there. And when I get off the motorway here, some more agile driving. Yeah, that's fun, really cool. So once again, steering and slalom wise, very well done, especially with the DCC and with the adaptive suspension here, where in the dynamic mode it's a little bit stiffer, and then you can go, for example, for the comfort mode and then just have more comfort in everyday driving life. So a lot of things that are very well done here, but yeah, as I said, it cannot keep up to the Audi. So today, well, which one will I take home today? Sometimes in these comparison episodes, it's really tough to decide. Today, it is rather not hard to decide. The clear winner for today is the Audi Q4 e-tron. While, well, as for the exterior design, that's maybe just a personal preference. I just like the Q4 e-tron better. It has a more modern look, actually just more spectacular. And the ID4 is a little bit you know, from this retro design, but I think then again not retro enough in a way. Do you know what I mean? But that's maybe personal preference. But on the interior, clearly also that the user interface is so much better than the Audi. Manual climate knob, a better software that's actually running all the time and is easy to control. Also better knobs on the steering wheel, so much easier to control. Ah yeah, and the digital instruments, of course, in a proper way, so way better in the Audi. In the ID4, here still problems with the software. The user interface is just not good at all. That's the problem. The main chassis here, the same, is very good. Also great handling with the ID4 GTX. So the hardware and also the range, both at some 400 kilometers or 250 miles, that's not the biggest difference in there. However, noise insulation, way better again with the Audi. It's just a more silent vehicle, especially at higher speeds. When you're driving normal cruise control, 100 kilometers an hour, 60 miles an hour, not such a huge difference. But when you're going way faster, there's huge difference with the Audi. Not sure if this one will be a big effect in your market, but you feel that just the noise deadening here and the overall handling, you know, suspension settings and so on, is just a little bit more tuned, so to speak, in the Audi. You feel they paid more effort to it, where they have more cost savings with the ID4. Well, then there's the price difference. It depends. If you take the currently available rear-wheel drive models in the US, there's hardly any price difference at all if you don't spec so much more in the car. Of course, the Audi leaves more stuff to spec, so you have more extra still with the Audi, and then it gets more expensive. But if you pick a reasonable spec with both, you might end up about like a 5,000 euros or dollars price difference. Yeah, that can be a huge thing already, of course, so it depends. When you rather go base spec, not such a difference, definitely always go for the Audi. When there's maybe like special offerings from the dealer or special leasing rates, and you end up that the ID4 is half the price of the Audi, yeah, then you have to start thinking again. But if you can hold the extra price for the Audi somewhat in an acceptable way, then clearly the Audi Q4 e-tron is the way to go. What about the competitors? Well, the Ioniq 5, for example, we also have a video of that, or the Tesla Model Y, strong competitors, very interesting. Driving-wise, the Audi Q4 e-tron is probably the best in the mid-size EV SUV segment. The other competitors also have their advantages you should check out right now.